my name is Irene. I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I talk about my opinions on books and hopefully give a few good recommendations. Before I get started, I'd just like to ask you please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about the Stormlight Archive. I am going to give you a spoiler-free review on my overall thoughts on these books. I am not going to go too deep into them because I do want it to remain spoiler-free. I'm just going to touch the surface of each of these books and what I thought of them. The fourth book recently came out. It came out yesterday, my time, and I am not planning on picking it up right away because I've read these three massive books in the past 3 to 4 months, which is a lot of pages in just a few months, so I'm feeling a little burnt out on Stormlight Archive, but I definitely am going to pick up the fourth one, just not right now, and I am really excited for it. I just need a little bit of a break. So I'm just going to go over each of these books and tell you my thoughts on them. So first off, I'm going to start off kind of giving an synopsis for this one. So it follows a bunch of our main characters, this one, but they haven't met yet. They are each having their own individual stories and showing kind of who they are in the beginning. So this book is mostly following Kaladin, and to be aware, this beginning has a lot of kind of false starts. It starts off with a man killing the king, and then the next beginning is showing our main character Kaladin in war and having a following and being a really powerful good man in the war. And then the next beginning, which is I feel like the real beginning, is 8 months later, and Kaladin was captured and made a slave to work for Bridge 4. And Bridge 4 is these group of men that are seen as the lowest of the low. They're all criminals. They're not. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And they're all considered criminals, and they have to carry these bridges. It's a very hard, very deadly thing that they are doing, and Kaladin is working with them, and it is really good. I think that this was my favorite book of the series so far. It was really good. I loved Kaladin. I loved watching the Bridge 4 members, and as they grew and everything like that, it was amazing. Then the next character we are following is Shallan, and she, in the beginning, left her brothers to go meet with this woman who, I don't know how to say her name, Jasna? That's how it looks in the book, Jasna. And Yasna? I don't know. She meets her, and she's a very smart woman, and she's acting like she wants to be educated by this woman, but she has ulterior motives, and she's trying to steal something of hers, which is very interesting. And Shallan's a really good character. I know a lot of people have problems with her. They think she's annoying because she's kind of very sarcastic and witty, and she does like a lot of puns. I think it's an interesting type of humor, and I really like it. So I like Shallan. She's a very good character. So she's also an artist, and that's a huge part of the story. And then there is Dalinar. And Dalinar in this book I was the least interested in. He gets more interesting in the beginning, but he used to be a tyrant, and this is after he's a tyrant. This is him kind of being a good man, and his brother just died, as you know from like the very beginning. Assassin kills the Gavilar, and Dalinar, you know, is now kind of, he's not in charge, his nephew is, but he has a lot of responsibilities. So that's very interesting, and we discover more about him in later books. Also, something very interesting is he's having a lot of visions recently of where he is seeing these things. He's going into the past, and these visions, and he doesn't know if it's real or fake. And he also are surrounded by a lot of other main characters like Adolin, who is his son, and the king, and Navini, which is his brother's, his dead brother's wife, the widow. Anyway, he's surrounded by all those main characters, and it does get interesting, but in this book I really prefer Kaladin and Shallan's perspective. And in the ending, it gets really good. It gets really good. So this one I gave 5 stars. The second book in the series is Words of Radiance. Now, I don't believe this is a spoiler, but all the characters kind of meet up. And in the first book, I wasn't sure if they were going to meet up. I really wanted them to, so don't worry, they do meet up, and they do form relationships and bonds with each other, which was amazing. It added so much to the character development for them to form these relationships. There's basically a love triangle. I'm not the biggest fan of love triangles, but Brandon Sanderson does it in a way where it doesn't piss me off that much. It's kind of irritating at points, but it is really good because they all meet up. This, by the way, is following Shallan's perspective. I forgot to say, in the first book is Callum's perspective, and he is a surgeon's son, so he knows a lot about medicine stuff. And this is Shallan's perspective, and I'm not going to say much about it, but she had a very tragic past, a lot like many of the other main characters. She probably has one of the most tragic, that's hard to say actually. But anyway, the relationships formed and bonded in this book was amazing. There's a lot more world building. We learn more about the history and the environment, because I think that the first one was more about the characters and how they get where they are and how they grow, and this one was more about the bonds and relationships and a little bit more world building and trying to figure out this world. There were some parts that were a little slow for me, but overall I really loved this and I gave it 5 stars. I know that I'm like starting to go through this a little fast and I went more detail with the first one, but I really am trying to avoid spoilers, so I can't really say too much about these, but I do want to give you my overview. So with Oathbringer, unfortunately, this was my least favorite book in the series, and I heard Rhythm of War is a lot like Oathbringer, and that's kind of a little disappointing to me, because the first 2 books were so, like, they were masterpieces. I feel like those could be classics in the future, and this one, I didn't connect to as much. So it was more, it was less about the characters and more about the world and the development of the world and discovering themselves and learning more about what they got to do to save things. We're learning more about other people, and that's the thing. That's kind of the thing that always throws me off in fantasy. I always love the first 2 books, the first book, but then once we start getting introduced to all these other characters, then I just stopped caring as much, because I just want to follow the main characters, and then all these other people are introduced and I don't really care too much about them, and then major plot points are just kind of forgotten. But I gave this 4 stars. Don't get me wrong, this was a really good quality book. I just personally disconnected to it. I forgot to completely talk about Syl. Syl is one of my favorite characters, and we got to learn more about her kind in this book. She is a Spren, and Sprens aren't known to really have, like, personalities. They're kind of just, like, they pop up with people's emotions, but she does. And we get to see more of her and Kaladin's relationship, which I really love. She's just like a little person, like, she's probably like this big. But anyway, I really did like learning more about her, and where she came from and things like that. Oh, and this follows Dalinar's perspective, and that was really good. I think that out of all 3 books, Dalinar was like my least favorite character, but I loved his backstory the most. It is so tragic. You can actually see how big of a tyrant he was, which Brandon Sanderson did not stop himself in any way. Like, he really made this character bad, you know. He wasn't afraid, like, oh, if I make this character too bad, then people aren't gonna like him. No, he really went in, and he did a magnificent job. I think this was one of the best character backstories. It was the part of the story I was most interested in reading. But then there were the other parts of the story, and Dalinar was having a really rough time in this one, and yeah, and the relationships were unfolding a little bit more. I don't know how I'm going to feel about Rhythm of War, because this really kind of did not hold up to the other two. And I think that that's kind of a common thing to say. I don't know. I could be completely wrong and everyone loves this book more than others, but I don't know. The ending was good. It was just the build-up was really slow for me, and just I didn't connect to all these other characters that were introduced. I might need to reread this one to really understand what's to really understand it, like the other two. But I don't know. It was still 4 stars though, because it was good quality. It was, he didn't stop the world building. He didn't, the characters still developed. It was still really good. It just didn't hold up to the other two, unfortunately. Anyway, that is my review of the Stormlight Archive. I adored these books. I thought that it was an amazing journey. I have read some of my favorite characters of all time now. Shallan and Kaladin, for sure, the top ones. And Syl. I can't believe I forgot to mention Syl in the from the beginning. But they're my favorite characters of all time. He's so good at that. He's also good at unique worlds and world building, and the magic system. The magic system in this was also extremely interesting. I don't know if I completely understand it, but I got the basics. And the history of the worlds and everything, I felt like he did a really good job at that, because it does have, it's like, it seems so real, like tangible, because I feel like that's exactly how a world would be, where it has all this history and all these things that have happened in the past that affect the present, and I just think that it was amazing. It made it feel like this was a real place that you could just get lost in, and that's his, Brandon Sanderson's talent is he creates worlds where they feel so real, and when you're reading you can literally get lost in them and feel like they're actual worlds that you want to go to. So I think he did an excellent job. I forgot to mention the high storms. The high storms were interesting, that there were all these storms that then Dalinar would get his visions, and it was a huge part of the story. And there's just so many things, and the creatures, and oh my god, I forgot to mention like the drawings that are throughout it. Like there's so many good drawings in here that I'm not gonna be able to find any now when I'm looking, but like I think that's just such a good thing to put throughout a story, is drawings like that. It's mostly words, not like a picture book, but it's just like, I just love that, like, that detail to the story. It's just like, it's so real to me, and I absolutely love it. So I don't want you to like think the criticism of the last book like really, change my overall opinion. My overall opinion is that these are masterpieces, and they're probably going to be classics in the future, and I just feel like I need to reread Oathbringer to really enjoy it like I should have the first time. But anyway, amazing book series. Overall, 5 out of 5 stars. I am excited to read the next one when I feel less burnt out. But I'll probably read it next year or something. I don't know if I'll do a review when I read it. It just depends if how much I have to say. It probably would be a spoiler-filled review if I did. This one was just more of an overview to get my opinions out there, just like how I did the Song of Ice and Fire series. But anyway, read these books. Maybe not start out with these books if you're just getting into Brandon Sanderson. Maybe start out with Mistborn. No. Start out with Warbreaker, and then you need to read Mistborn. You need yeah, the Cosmere books before this one. Definitely read Warbreaker before this. Well, not definitely. You don't need to, but I would highly recommend it, because Warbreaker is also one of my favorite books of all time. But anyway, I'm getting completely off track. Read these books. At least try it out. And at least, you know, give it a chance because it's so good. And don't let like the beginning of this book like throw you off, because after all those false starts, it does start following like storylines, and then you'll be able to understand what's going on if you just if you just like don't let the false starts like prevent you from enjoying it. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I post every single Thursday. Please like and subscribe. My Goodreads and my Instagram is linked down below, and I really hope you enjoyed. So I will see you next time. Bye.